Hello everyone, my name's Steven from AnimeGO, and here today we've got a special guest, Axelbeats of Axelbeats.
Hello, I'm Axelbeats of Axelbeats.
So yeah, we're going to do a little bit of interview today and see where it goes. So if for those unaware, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a Canadian living in Japan as an English teacher, and I've been in some way connected to YouTube over the last 6 years, either working as an editor or running my own channel or whatever else people need at the time. Yeah, that's mostly it.
So, why did you decide to jump into the world of YouTube? And exactly how did you get into that world?
So when I was in, I think, first year of university, I was like watching a lot of YouTube and just was a little bit curious about making it myself. So a lot of what I was watching at the time was like Pokemon stuff, just to not pay attention in class for the most part. But that's kind of what I started with, and I ended up meeting a few people that I really got on with, and just kind of went on from there. And it grew, and I started working for people, and eventually just got back to working for myself. And yeah.
Oh, so what made you decide to be an editor then? What made you decide to start there before creating your own content?
I started with my own content and kind of jumped to editing because it was a little bit better for money. And like for some people, I was able to do writing for them as well. So I really wanted to mostly just make content that people would see. I didn't care about much if the channel was doing well. And I could make videos I was really proud of, but they weren't making any contact, I guess. So once I was working as an editor, I could like give people the idea for videos or put them all together however I wanted. It was like I've got my own material out there and I'm getting paid for it, which was a win-win.
So essentially the Bruno Mars of YouTube.
That's it.
You're creating a content for other people, then you're like, well, why don't I just do this myself?
Yes.
So then who was like influenced you, I suppose, to do YouTube? I mean, you said you watched quite a bit, especially Pokemon. So who were the I suppose, main people?
So some of them not so great looking back, but a couple that I really liked, that I'm still very proud to say that I was watching then and not being related to pedophilia. Shady Penguin was a big one, who's always just a very positive person and wanted to make like content that everyone could enjoy. Nate Wants to Battle was another one who just made really good music and content surrounding the games. And then just another few, anyone who was making really good theories about the games or talking about them in a way that wasn't really just I play the game and nothing beyond that. I really liked like the lore and mythology idea behind Pokemon and similar series, so that always drew me in.
Oh, well, that makes sense based on your current content.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. And I've noticed, doing a little bit of research about some of the people you have worked for, like Nutstaku and Briggs, and I can really see the videos that were sort of like your editing style based watching your stuff. So the question is, how do you decide who you want to be an editor for? Is it people approaching you and then you just take the gig, or do you vet or really think about who you want to creatively work with that suits your style?
So when I first started editing, I was just looking to kind of improve my content along with getting it out there, because my editing before was very baseline, and I figured if I'm working for other people, I can kind of get the experience and develop my skills a little bit on top of sharing the content. So I originally reached out to Nux and Briggs. It's hard not to yell Nux and Briggs. But yeah, so I reached out to Briggs. He offered me a job doing editing for a little bit. And then once I was getting a decent reputation with him, Animac reached out to me and asked if I wanted to work with him. Then Nux did, and a couple other people here and there. But it more or less like one person said, you can work for me, and when he was happy with me, other people started getting that as well. And it's been nice.
A question I just thought of then. In regards to an AniTube content, I suppose, because there is a wide variety of creators around the world, do you think Canadian content creators have their own different vibe or different flavour compared to, say, maybe American, British, Australian content creators of similar topics?
I think that a lot of the Canadian ones are almost more serious about not being serious, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at Briggs and Nux, Nux has like while he can be very goofy, there's always like some kind of seriousness to his voice, even when he's just memeing people. And same with Briggs, where it's very like what he's saying sounds matter of fact, even if he's fucking around. And I feel like that's really common in Canada or Canadian content creators. Whereas if you look at people like maybe Too Spooky, for example, it's very like fun and announcery kind of voice. People from Britain tend to be more like informative, which I guess goes along with the accent. But yeah, so everyone like has maybe small differences, but I wouldn't say they're monumental. There's definitely overlap and similar themes among all of them.
Yeah. So I suppose then the next question I have is actually about the content. So Japanese popular culture obviously has taken off. I think since when I got into it a long time ago when I was younger, and I think for the generation now, it's sort of like, oh, anime is so in everyone's life that you don't really think about it. So how has Japanese pop culture, I suppose, influenced you? Do you think it's influenced you so much to the point that you would never have gotten into YouTube without it, or is it just happened to be a great byproduct for your own content?
Well, a lot of what I like to talk about on YouTube is more like the mythology and or history behind topics, and the way that a lot of Japanese content presents itself is like there's these themes of all these historic things in a lot of it. So it opens up a lot of doors for what I want to talk about. If I wasn't introduced to like anime and video games in the same way I was, I'm not sure I would have ever had topics like that to talk about so much. So I don't think I would have ever been going onto YouTube for outside of it, honestly.
Yeah, I think I can see how that makes sense, because like in my own mind, and I don't know too much about like American comics and stuff, but I feel like content outside of superhero content has only really now been seen like more seriously from a general public point of view. So I can see definitely where like anime, manga, and just Japanese content in general can be really good for content creators like yourself. How do you think Japanese pop culture in general has changed YouTube and Twitch and other platforms over the last, say, 10 or so years, or 6 years since you've sort of started?
It's a difficult question. So I think in general, maybe for YouTube, there was a lot of, like, it obviously comes in different waves of each kind of, every 2 years you'll get a different theme for YouTube almost. So there was this bit of time where there was a lot of gaming content. And I think that sort of evolved into theories about games, like Game Theory. That channel probably influenced a whole lot of similar content creators to kind of spread into things like the video games or anime and present that sort of information in the same way. And I think, like, I'm not sure that there's been a big development from the anime community past that point. But I know that it's more of like a running with that ball in a more widespread way. Like, it's not really evolving much at this point, but it is spreading to like a much wider audience than anime would have reached before. So I think I'm not sure that we've like affected the landscape of YouTube at all, outside of like big people like maybe Nux or Joey, but we've definitely like spread the hobby or the interest a lot more than it would have maybe, and I think that's a good thing at least.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. It's going to be interesting in the future, especially as cultures blend and like the changing landscape of both what content is good and what content isn't bad on the internet. So definitely interested to see how that continues to change in the future. So with your content for 2021, what do you hope to get out of this year? Do you have any major plans? Do you have anything that you really want to aim towards?
So it's a little bit hard to say right now. I'm, as of literally a week from now, I'm going to be doing YouTube full time. So it's kind of hard to set goals for this new kind of experience I've never had before. But I would kind of like to spread out from, right now I'm focusing a lot on like Inuyasha specifically. So starting, I think last week or the week before, I'm trying to look at other anime and kind of share historical stories or facts from those and kind of share them in a way that maybe people don't know about. So for example, next week I'll be doing a video talking about Gold Roger in One Piece and his real life counterpart who basically was executed and had this massive pile of treasure that was just hidden and like inspired many pirates. So I'm not sure a lot of people know about that sort of thing, and that's kind of what I'm looking to share.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely sounds interesting because I never knew about that.
Yeah, Henry Avery.
Oh, there you go. And I mean, I suppose if you look at it, all these pirates came along, so the Shonen Jump feeling of friendship was born. Yeah. So going full time, I suppose this is a very interesting thing because I feel as content consumers, there's a lot of like things that are misconstrued or maybe myths about going full time. What do you think from a perspective as a consumer? What is it that stuff that people maybe not take for granted, but they see as sort of the truth, but it's actually a really big myth about people who are full-time YouTubers, Twitch, etc.?
I think the biggest thing that maybe people misunderstand is the amount of time that can go into it. Like even just people who stream content and maybe don't make videos, like the amount of time that goes into running their own channel, any social media connection to it, setting up graphic works or hiring editors and whatever else. You're literally running a company in some sense. And even just like a smaller channel like mine, I spend 5 hours a day on average, if not 10 on a day off or a day where I'm not doing my other job. And it's just like, it can be a lot of time and that results in a 10-minute video. So it's really maybe a disconnect in how much time is being put into it and what's being produced. And I'm not sure that many people kind of understand that, but I think more people are starting to understand or appreciate that recently.
Do you think maybe, I suppose, the Instagram branding and that type of influencer maybe part of the reason why people see other content creators as sort of like similar, so they are dismissive of it?
You mean like kind of people who maybe on Instagram take pictures of themselves and that's their whole...
Yeah, and that's what it seems like anyway. I mean, there's probably a lot behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But do you think because of that, people will just sort of see it as, oh, well, it's easy money. Like, you're not really doing the same as someone who's working a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah. I definitely think there's like some level of that. I don't think that maybe people would look at YouTubers and Instagrammers on maybe the same level, but it's definitely, there's some mentality of like it. Sorry. Let me mute that.
Phone call's a busy man.
Well. Yeah. So there's definitely like some mentality of like it's not a real job to many people, especially in Japan, that it's not something that anyone would consider. So if we went to go get an apartment here and we're like, yeah, we've made, this much money, this consistently over the last year working on YouTube, they'd be like, okay, but what's your job?
Yeah, that's very true. Do you think as TV continues to regress, that I suppose the silver screen star will be probably replaced by an LED star or something along those lines, as maybe YouTube and Twitch and, people who make content for streaming services and such become the new TV stars?
I don't think that it'll ever be completely phased out or like replaced, but they might start developing in a more parallel way. Right now, I think they're kind of competing for the same space. But in the future, I would imagine they'd kind of compete for opposite spaces, like more people who are looking for silver screen careers or entertainment would be like more long-standing format that you can kind of sit down and just enjoy with people without thinking about it. and YouTubers would just be continuing to present content that's more instantaneous and fun. You don't have to really worry about anything else. You can just kind of turn it on, done in 15 minutes or an hour maybe if you're watching a stream. So it's very like different kind of niche or different goal for each one. And I think that's just going to be more flushed out as they start to develop further and further.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I can agree with that. Yeah. So what advice would you give to anybody who's planning to go into this world, even if it's from just a video editing standpoint, creating content, deciding to diversify in various forms of social media? What advice would you give to people interested?
If you're looking to start editing, I think knowing your own value is very important. Luckily, I haven't had too many situations like this, but many people will try to will try to pay their editors as little as possible, which, I mean, to some level is understandable. You're trying to run a business and there's no like regulation for editors or union for editors, right? But at the same time, like, if you're a good editor, you should be able to charge editing fees, right? And as far as like people who are looking to create content, don't go in expecting to make money right away or expecting like for things to blow up or to be successful right away. Everything takes time and it's all incremental for the most part. So just kind of, it's cheesy, but doing things that you enjoy and you can put out and people can see your energy and your own enjoyment in, that's typically the best way to build an audience and a brand of content that you'll enjoy going forward. I wouldn't say like do something you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life or whatever, but like if you're doing something that you love, other people will be able to see that passion and they'll be able to share in it. And I think that's more attractive than like trying to jump on a weekly trend or whatever.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because I mean, I know myself personally as a consumer, I've only started getting into YouTubers, so to speak, in the last couple of years. And I agree. I think authenticity really seems to be the driving force behind why people are interested. I mean, when you look at the current VTuber boom, I think it's that sense of like an authentic character that has energy.
Yeah,
so.
And with VTubers, like obviously they are characters, but they're able to consistently portray that character in a very real feeling way, and that's what I think is attracting people to them beyond the idea of like cute anime girls.
Yeah, but that brings up an interesting thought. So what do you think of when it comes to content creators, those that have put their own faces out there for the world to recognize and go, hey, you're Axelbeats, versus say people like Nux, VTubers, that don't show their faces? What's your feelings on this? And do you think in the future having people not know who you are is going to be better?
As far as people who like share their face, it's a great way to really put out a very clickable product. People who see like a face in a thumbnail, it's just something that catches your eye much more easily than like an anime character or whatever else might be put there. So it's an effective way to for people to find your channel, and it also helps with building your own like sense of personality. So, oh, I see this and I know that this guy is going to do this kind of thing. Whereas people who like, well, Nux or whoever else uses avatars, VTubers, they're like more able to be a character and be a little bit less authentic or genuine, and that's totally fine because the character they're portraying, there's like a division there. On top of that, just being able to separate yourself from like your work and your life is really great. And a lot of people value their privacy or their own space. Not something you can always have if your name and face is out there. So like I have a fairly small following, and the amount of people who have like found my Facebook and messaged me over the last few months, uncomfortable.
Yeah, and on that note, because we've seen on the internet how, for better or worse, how passionate and volatile communities can be, how much is it a combination of saying the right things and also walking on eggshells?
That's different from person to person, I think. My own perspective on that is just like, I'm going to make whatever content I want and present it in the way that I'm most comfortable doing so. If I happen to upset people, whatever, that's fine. People can be upset whenever they want. But I don't want to ever put myself in a situation where where viewers think that I'm a very close friend to them, if that makes sense. I don't want to sound very cold or jaded or anything, but I like having that division and the boundaries set up there where it's I'm making something for you. That's great if you enjoy it. But even if you listen to me 10 minutes a day or half hour a day, we don't actually know each other, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose that's the thing. If you're say Brad Pitt, you've got some really big guy in a suit who's nah, back off.
Yeah.
Where for a YouTuber of yourself, you sort of Twitch and stuff, you can really gain a great relationship with people, but you don't have the money to pay for Big Bruno the boxer to protect.
And the idea that I totally zoned out there. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's gone. Sorry.
Well, there you go. That's fine. That's fine.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. So I suppose the last question I have then is the most important. So what are your favorite anime, and who are your favorite characters?
So favorite anime, I tend to like very middle of the road things, for anime, music, everything. Nothing that's phenomenal or nothing that's very, very terrible. Just good enough is what I tend to like.
6.5 guy.
I love 6.5s. So my favorite anime, it's probably Angelbeats, followed by maybe Pet Girl of Sakurazo or Maiden Abyss. None of them are
I haven't seen the other two, but they're rated pretty highly, Angelbeats and Maiden Abyss.
Yeah, but I think they're maybe 7.58s.
Still better than 6.5.
Yeah, it's not perfection. I know there's inherently and objectively better shows out there, but this is just the kind of stuff that I enjoy the most. Where there's a source feeling of sort of exploration and some kind of message that's very heartfelt in them. I really enjoy shows like that. As far as favorite characters, I have Truth tattooed on me from Full Metal Alchemist. For a character who's not very involved in the show, I've always been really attracted to the message behind him, where you should kind of be grateful for what you have and never extend beyond what's, don't expect something unnatural to come to you, no matter how much you're gonna lie, cheat, and steal to get there. Yeah. So that's always been a message that really resonated with me. So characters that present that kind of theme, always really good. And yeah, those probably. What kind of characters do you like?
Well, that's a great question. I've watched a lot of... I've watched a variety of things over time, and I suppose it depends on which age of myself you're talking to. When I was younger, I suppose I was really into the typical power fantasy style characters Piccolo, Vegeta, the characters in Gundam Wing, things like that. But I think as I've gotten older, I've just I don't know. I don't necessarily think I'm so much an ultra character person anymore. But if the story resonates, especially content that's relaxed and easy, for instance. I like the sort of manzai joy between Sakurai and Yuzaki from Yuzaki Wants to Play. Mm-hmm. And I've liked more laid back characters from Yuru Camp. So, and then I still love characters from Evangelion who are deep and have lots of meaning and things behind it. Same with characters from Psycho-Pass. So, yeah, I think it depends on my mood and what day of the week it is.
Very fair, yeah.
Well, actually, thank you very much for coming today. Actually, I came to your house, but anyway, thank you very much. And yeah, this is Steven signing off, and Johnny.
Stay excellent. Let's...